Good morning. I'm not excited about this day. It just seems like we're in for more chop. I was kind of hoping that this market would be opening lower and heading toward support, but it is the way it is. And Mr. Schizophrenic, being what he does, there was the attempt to make the move lower, which immediately reversed. A little breakdown failure and made a higher low, and well, that little failure there brought in, I guess, some short covering and pushed it up toward that resistance area. And now we just start over again here to see if the new level here can hold, and whether how much it pulls back or whether it pushes up to the top of this range here now. And so it just doesn't appear to be much um, void room to get something going one way or another. Obviously, this bar is just beginning to take shape, so who knows what it's going to look like. If it was to close near the high of the day, or even get further into this red bar, that could be a pretty good indication, at least for a move up, maybe to the top of the range here. But if it's a topping tail at the end of the day, I think the odds are pretty good that it's going back down to the bottom of this bigger range. And maybe just keep in mind the possibility, if it did close like that, which is what I'm thinking, that could turn into, let's just duplicate that. It could turn into something like this, where it ends up maybe below. And so, sideways markets are just a picture of uncertainty. So it's just day to day to see which way things are going. We look for day trades. We have found stocks that are on their own page, so to speak, that, still in uptrends, and definitely ones that are in downtrends. So we look for them and look how we can take advantage of those, of course, but we like to see the markets trending, and not sideways like this, for so long, and this amount of uncertainty until it's out of the 60-minute range. Don't know where it will go. Well, sure, exactly. So look, before, Tony, we were looking at this, right? We look at what was directly to the left, and this is where things began to hold yesterday, right? And they chopped around, and it kind of went up, and then here they broke down, and so on. What they've done, and they tested the next level, and So Alex is reminding me, Powell's at 11 o'clock, Fed minutes at 2. But just like, what is that really going to do in this market? I think, I can't really say it's meaningless, but if you look at the 3-month T-bills, that's forecasting, yes, they're going to lower interest rates. And so this market goes from, oh, the Fed will do something, it's going to rally, the market, blah, 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 to, well, what about China? China talks. Are they really going to do something there? I don't know. Somebody makes a tweet or whatever. The market goes down or the market goes up. It's schizo time. It's unfortunately retarded, but that's the way this market is. It's just filled with this uncertainty, impeachment rhetoric. Is that going anywhere? I mean, it is just a market that is just filled with, slapped in the face type of situations where it's set up to make a move to one direction, it flips in another. And, you got trading ranges within larger trading ranges. And at some point it's going to break out. But majority of times the scenario for something like that is for prices to tighten up at some point, whereas here you've got this pretty big down move, and it moves up, and we'll see which way it goes here. But at some point, even like this, where it got to the top of the range, and the candle bodies get smaller and the closes are relatively close together, and then it just could get to the top of the range into this little void here. And then the pullback after the strong move, buyers step up on the pullback, and we know what happened on that Tuesday morning with the ISM, where buyers were, ready for it to move higher from the pullback, and got blindsided, and down she went. Now it's up and down, and so we've got this mess. And what news is really going to drive this market here? It's hard to imagine that anything's going to drive it significantly above or below this range. I think it's naive to think this trade talk situation is going to be resolved, whatever the discussions are going to be there. And so, we take it day to day. As I said, I was, kind of hopeful that this would be on its way down, and there'd be a great entry point, at least maybe for a few days, where prices could rally back up again. But now with this pre-market having moved up like that, we've got to reestablish some, taking of control back here. So maybe that's what's happening. Looking at the 5-minute chart, I don't know if this is a real move that happened at that point, or whether it's a bad tick. I'll see if the NQs have a similar move like that. But so you can see if it is real, it's a tell that there's a bunch of orders there lurking up above, and then it just drove it back down. So now we've got this rounding tops, which suggests maybe it rolls back over here. But okay, rolled over to where? Well, now it established this little bottom here on the 60-minute chart. Is it going to crash through that? Historically, no, not after this kind of a pattern. It's going to stop there, and then it's going to chop around, and we'll see where it goes from there. So I guess, where's the positive in all of this? Recognizing what we're dealing with, and not, coming to the markets with some unrealistic expectations about what could move here. So the Qs, same, somewhat similar pattern here. Little peekaboo under the low, higher low, up to resistance. Sellers sitting up there, same rounding top on the 5-minute there, and we'll see where it ends up. Maybe it's, be back and forth inside this range, and so I don't want to be repetitive in what we're saying. You can see it's the same scenario here as we look at these different markets. This kind of, it actually held. It didn't make the peekaboo underneath, and retested up to resistance and going sideways. So, looking at this, I'm not sure. Well, no one is, of course. But we got this little range going on here, pre-market. Does it start to break lower, or does it break out? If it breaks out, where's it going? Well, it's not going that far. The real opportunity here, even from an intraday point of view, is back down here, inability to rally back up, and then back down into this larger void below. So we'll see how it unfolds. Russell, let's just peel this over a little bit. Closer to support, but similar situation. This actually, and we talked about this earlier in the week, that this had a better chart setup to be able to push higher if higher was in the cards. Now, it's stopped right here, and it's doing the same thing as the other markets are doing. So we'll see which way this goes. And you can see it's all the way down to the bottom of the range already. So it's moved to the downside. Theoretically is, well, it is over, not theoretically, it is over for the short term, and it's stabilizing here. And we'll see whether this is a consolidation that's going to set up the next leg lower, which could be sizable from here. And looking at the Russell, you can see why it's sizable from here. If this cannot rally off of the bottom of this consolidation and hangs down here, and if it starts to break, this is going to be the go-to E-mini or ETF to sell short, because it's got a considerable amount of room to drop. So oil up here a little bit, no surprise, I suppose. just, choppy, but down near the bottom of the range. So buyers want to step up there, and range bound markets play the bottom of the range, play the top of the range. Here it took out, the highs there and went up to the next one and then all the way back down. Oh, and so we'll see how far this can go. And, on the 60-minute, you can see the next high there around 54, which is pretty close to, give or take around here. So got some pretty decent resistance up here around 54 and change. So it doesn't appear there's a lot of upside there. But if this can maybe hold on to today's gain here today and close green up near the top of the range, that could be a pretty good sign for oil to make a next move, back up to the next intraday range up there. So we'll see how that sets up later today, tomorrow. Bonds are down a little bit, just chopping around here. They're not making any move of significance. You can see they're stuck in this range that we defined yesterday. And so buyers stepped up, sellers stepped up, and this chop going on, which is, just this consolidation that's going on here. So what we really want to see from the bullish point of view is this start to push lower, which interest rates will go up, and that'll help support equities or get them moving higher. And if it pushes up through here to make a move up toward up here, equities probably they go down because they've had this inverse relationship. Not exact, but it's been there. Gold, everything is just sloppy. Yesterday didn't really go much of anywhere. You can see the sideways, stuff that's going on here. And there's an expression, a little bit vulgar here, but having been in the automotive business many, many years ago, I get it. It's relative to right now and why I'm kind of laughing here. But when I first started there, probably 40 years ago or whatever it was, old timer said about this old piece of junk thing coming in and had to fix it up. And he said, Greg, you can't make chicken salad out of chicken shit. It's like, this is the way this market is. The kind of adage about it, you got these trading ranges all over the place, and we can't expect to have some big opportunities here, market related here. We look at stocks as to, what they can possibly do because we look for trends there. And it's like you have to accept the fact that there are going to be markets that are this way for a period of time. So don't fight with them. You may have, your setup for your own trading to be, well, this is what I trade. And that's all well and good. But when you are trading, whatever it might be, you might trade gold, you might trade the bonds or this or that, and they're just in this choppy trading range. It's like, don't fight with it. Go trade something else that's set up for a bigger move. So you can't force these things, but you can, do what we're doing here. Just continue to monitor the levels and wait for things to set up for, much better opportunities. Silver, kind of the same thing, actually a little better, but it may have some room to get going. This thing typically doesn't move a whole heck of a lot, other than like here, it brought up the rear, without gold moving, but we'll see what happens there. And lastly, transports, which we always look at, they went down with, the markets yesterday, but they're at the bottom of the range here, like the Russell. So, one down day doesn't make a trend. And so now, from a bullish point of view, this needs to build up a little support. And over here, we saw it took 3 weeks. Over here, it was just a 2-week reversal. So whether, this turns back up or whether we're hanging here and next week or, we just don't know. We're at the bottom of the range. So the assumption is that it can hold like it did before. Maybe it moves back up to the top of the range. But if it hangs here, say like this green day and the next week was a down day, or had gapped down and stayed down, well, then our bias would have been it's going lower. So the concept of bar by bar analysis, support, resistance, trend, or the lack thereof, sideways, all of those point us in the right direction with a bias that, will tell us here's an opportunity, or you know what, don't knock your head against the wall because it's not ready yet. So, and I think that's a huge advantage, because as traders, especially those that are starting out, there's a lot of time of banging your head against the wall trying to figure out why something happens at one time and why it doesn't. But if there's no tradable void and there's no event at a reference point called support or resistance that says prices are ready to move significantly in one direction or the other, you're running uphill with a heavy load on your back. So anyway, that's it. All yours, Dan. Some stocks moving down here. So clearly appears to be some better opportunities in individual stocks than trying to do something in the broader markets.
Yeah, so I was just thinking we should do an MT live on range-bound markets.
Sure. It would be a perfect opportunity.
Yeah, FedEx, I think, got a downgrade. And that's weak. That's a nasty downtrend that started with this nasty earnings gap. And I think I said that day, the gap is so big. Ideally, we want to see it not rally enough much and then go sideways. And yeah, boy, it did not rally much at all. All righty, it opens. In the weekly options trader, Apple. We had the 222s. It held our stop, so we're still in that. Costco put spread, 285, 280s, and I tightened the stop. IWM, we legged into a condor yesterday. And that's fine. Roku put spread, remember we were saying yesterday, this looks like a directional over Monday's high, and now it's gapping over that. Upper right is my 5-minute chart. It's holding very well, price void. This is the best gapper I got this morning. It looks great. So all eyes on that, both for a directional, and that means buying stock or buying calls or a bull call debit spread. In addition, we're going to look to sell another put spread for next week. Finally, Tilray, we have a put spread. It's, still dogging it there, but it expires Friday. We got the 22.5s. So we just need that melting ice cube to keep melting. In the swing ladder, AMT, we have a covered call. Costco covered call, and we sold a third, pretty darn near the dead highs yesterday. So that was a good move. Fitch, we're short stock with a break even. Goldman, long stock. Hess, we legged into a covered call on Monday. So that was perfect. IRT, long stock, and looks great. ITB, put spread. IYT, we have a put spread. Jable, covered call, core trade. Kim, real estate stock, core trade. Oscar Charlie is, let's stop yesterday. 59, yep, shoot. Yeah, it stopped yesterday. Let me close it out. Yeah, we were in that one for a while, since September 13th. SITC, we are long stock. It's doing nothing, but has a nice weekly and monthly. And Target, we bought stock yesterday as a 1, 2, 3 continuation. All right, that's it over there. Daku is on our long list from yesterday. Ande, I don't know what made me look at him, but that's a bearish trend. No, today's MT live. It's going to be determining the turn in getting on board anything, up, down, sideways. And in terms of getting on board on the long side, there is zero turn right now. Manpower, that was a nice late day breakdown setup right there. If the market were open, you know, longer on this chart, that is a beautiful setup. Down on the day, shallow retracement. You got 2 breakout failures. You got a bearish 1, 2, 3, 4. That is a beautiful intraday short. So now it's gapping down 136.50. I wish it was gapping down a lot more. Or what we call a gap and snap pattern is when we have multiple fluid red bars, then gapping down and taking out a 5, 10, 15-minute high, whatever. So this one's not as good because it's not as extended, and this 15-minute is still nasty looking. So we'll keep an eye on it. iRobot. This was a sign of a turn right here. So that was tradable. It made a new low here and closed with a bottoming tail and then made a higher high. And look at the 20 MA starting to flatten. So, but it's still a bottoming pattern. So you see the difficulty in, you know, trying to do these turns and bottoming patterns. But that was a turn. And now we're back to lower lows, lower highs under the 20, 50, gapping down, but no pattern. AAL said they're going to resume flying the MAX. Somebody on YouTube asking about Apple. Yeah, I mentioned we have a put spread in Apple. Yeah, there's no zero setup for a new trade, so don't even consider that. But we're just in management mode. We have the 2 22.50s. So that's, you know, right there. So as long as it closes above this on Friday, we make max profit. Oh, so yeah, AAL, they're going to start flying Boeing's problem 737 MAX. No pattern. It's a big old mess here. J&J got hit with an $8 billion judgment. It was down a lot more earlier, at 128, but it's still in trading range. And the fact that it rebounded $2, it's still a bearish gap right here, the 130s. So actually might turn into a condor candidate. If we could sell an out of the money call spread up here, out of the money put spread down here, and then it just bobbles around in here, that's one of our favorites. That's the old Condor. FEYE gapping up to 1450, so that's way up here. All right, so this, also a bottoming pattern, broke out. So this actually was a bullish pattern right there. Again, that's a bullish 1, 2, 3 continuation, which did not trigger. And then it came back, retest, wide range bar, sideways. This could be a day trade. It might get up to 15 bucks or whatever. So that's a watch. I'll put him over here. Levi had earnings, 19 bucks. There's That's nothing to do there. PayPal, I think, got a downgrade, gap down to 98 bucks, and it's, you know, filled the gap. So that's a sign of strength, but still in a downtrend, daily, weekly. Uptrend on the monthly, downtrend daily, weekly. This had earnings yesterday, and this is what we call a bearish gap that bullies, and we define that as a bearish gap that fills the gap fairly rapidly, like within the first hour of the day. That's a sign of strength. So let's keep an eye on that to sell a put spread. YouTube's asking about shop. All right, so this was a bottoming pattern. Actually, we're going to talk about this one in today's MT Live. So this is a 180 reversal, bullish consolidation. It broke out and we sold out of the money put spread, and we just went into trail mode. So we actually stopped out yesterday at a gain. Now the general rule is we don't want these to retrace more than 50% into this bar, and that one did retrace more than 50. So we have no pattern right now. None. I don't know what to do with it. I wouldn't even sell a put spread on it because of this deep retracement. Another one, TTD. It's trying to get its sea legs back. So this could be a candidate that we could talk about in MT Live today. Has it made its turn? And my answer is no, it's not a confident turn. It's still a consolidation and a downtrend. But this green bar was not bad. But you know, your target wouldn't be much at all. What I would prefer instead, if you were thinking long, is for it to go up and then give a big double bottom. Big double bottom. It's on major support on the weekly, but there's no signs of a confident turn. And I'm just assuming you're talking long. If you were talking short, these overlapping bars, 1, 2, 3, 4, are support. So even if you were to short it under Monday's low, this big green bar, I would prefer that to be a V bottom, just one bar instead of those overlapping couple of them. So it's just not quality. It's you know, we're looking for more quality, no-brainer setups of the low. I'm just watching this. It's going to take a couple weeks, but I like the monthly if oil stabilizes and gets going. So Daku, in terms of a more no-brainer pattern, I like Daku. Let's watch it, maybe 15-minute high. And let's watch Roku. Looks great. Yeah, Roku is my best gapper today. And I sent it out into our text subscribers saying be on the lookout. Is it going to just do a gap and go on us? Darn it. See, it's all a matter of how aggressive you want to be. I mean, if you wanted to buy it, your stop has to be under this closing pivot down here under 108. So that I'm going to look for, actually, I'm going to look for a 105 down here, put spread for next week. We're already in one that expires this week.